that the net gain to be to come out of this change isn't super much more significant for the results having gone this way than if they had the other way, you know? The negatives of one are by far so much worse than the negatives of the other. So I'm happy with how things went. We all had been consistently, like, the results was all that was on our TV in my room. And all of us just kind of cycled through, would update each other if anything changed. And watching like those last few states shift and those numbers go up was, I can't even describe it. Like, I don't think I've ever cared so much about literally anything related to this entire climate so much. But yeah, overall it's good. And I want to say, on behalf of obviously myself and everyone that's ever been on this show, if you ever listened to the show in the past, if you ever listened to any of our guests speak, this here is monumental, because inadvertently everyone on this show that has ever been on this show somehow represents, you know, one of the groups of people that have been targeted the worst over this past 4 years. And this is gonna be, I think, super interesting to see, especially once we have guests back in the studio, because, like I said, inadvertently the show became a way to showcase, I guess, the everyday thoughts and opinions of individuals whose hardships are often tokenized. And I guess your identity does shape the way you perceive things and things in life, like, I guess, your upbringing and your experiences, and, you know, so on and so forth. But the show was never about that, and it was very deliberately never about that, because, as I said, it's often something that becomes tokenized, like you become whatever the general public decides of your identity is the most prominent thing, right? But, like, I guess the purpose of the show kind of as it developed became to show that, you know, we're all just people, we're all just trying to live our best lives, and we shouldn't have to be defined by some arbitrary status or title. But yeah, all this to say, I'm happy. Thank you to anyone who voted. Thank you to anyone who cared about, you know, being a part of this change, which will be, I have my high hopes for those first 100 days. Those first 100 days are going to be crucial and are going to change a lot. But anyway, that's that. Hope everyone's been having a good week. I know I've, like I said, been completely preoccupied with this, but that's besides the point at this point, right? It's over and done with. I guess we'll see how this develops. It'll be interesting. Like I said, I do miss having guests in the studio, because this would have been a really cool conversation to have with, especially with a few certain people who've been on the show before. But we'll see. We'll see what next season has in store. But I also do want to say I am super sad today to have woken up to the news of Alex Trebek's passing. That has also been on my mind today. This man was iconic and legendary, and for a long time, I would watch Jeopardy every single night. I don't know why. I don't know where that obsession started. You know, no, I do know. It was Ken Jennings, a man, myth, legend. But yeah, I was hooked on Jeopardy, like, to the point where I used to have a little reminder on my iPod Touch. It's time to watch Jeopardy. Very formative, like on the same wave as like Bob Ross and Mr. Rogers, etc. That's, I think, in the same light that I considered Alex Trebek. Obviously, when he publicized that he was suffering cancer, that was super heartbreaking, but his demeanor never changed. He was still very, like, strong and what am I saying? He was still very strong and, like, determined, right? It was such, like, a good, like, measure of his character. But I don't know, this one hit hard. Like it's similar to like finding out when Robin Williams passed, or even Michael Jackson. But I don't know, this one hit me hard. I was shook for a while. I was just kind of staring at my phone like, no way, that's crazy, that's impossible, like not him. He's like one of those people who's too big to fall, you know. But yeah, I don't know. Jeopardy was super, super significant to me, and now I don't know how I'm gonna watch it without him. Like, he as a person was so charismatic and so funny. I loved seeing him interact with the contestants. And I actually got the chance to see Ken Jennings speak in person. When I was in high school, he came to speak at the community college, and like I said, I was obsessed with Jeopardy. And it was mostly through and because of Ken Jennings that I even got hooked to begin with. But it was, I think he won, I would say 74 games. He got defeated on the 75th one. But yeah, so I was already a fan. I was like, there's no way, that man's like super, super, super smart. I think he made like close to $2.5 million off the show, and now he's like a writer or something. But yeah, so he came to speak, and it was about like, I think he kind of spoke a bit on Watson and like whether or not computers were going to ever be smart enough to beat us, and like what was next in the future. But he was really funny. But he mentioned that in person, Alex Trebek is like exactly as you'd imagine him to be, like just a super like overall really nice, like gracious man. So like I just I'm at a loss for words. Like that one hurt. But yeah, Jeopardy is one of those shows that I think was formative in who I am as a person. Overall, like, game shows are meant to like hook you in, right? They're meant to like grab your attention and be like, you know, this could be you. You too could get rich for just for doing nothing or for a stroke of luck. And in my house, like, we all have our favorites. We're not like crazy big into TV, but game shows are usually what's on like during meal times, and so like we eat dinner as a family, or we eat like lunch or something, and we'll just have the TV on in the background as filler, or you know, as conversation starter. And Jeopardy is my favorite. My dad likes Family Feud. There was a while when we watched Deal or No Deal. We also watched what's the one with Wayne Brady where everyone's in costume? That one was a daytime show, I think. And then, of course, the singing competitions. Oh my God, America's Got Talent. We used to watch America's Got Talent like every single day that was on. And then I got mad because it always kept going to singers. And I'm like, bruh, there's singing shows. Let someone else have this. But yeah, we always used to watch game shows. And Jeopardy was my favorite because it's like just random knowledge. Just by having random knowledge, like that's all it takes to make it. And there was what's it? I think they have like their test online, and then they like released like a phone game you could play. And so again, like I was super obsessed, and like I feel like I've picked up a lot of like random little tidbits just like, you know, through life in general. But watching it with my family is always entertaining because I'll be like shouting at the TV, and if I like guess like super obscure things right, my parents were like, or my mom's like in particular, she's like, how do you even know that? Why do you even know that? When would you have learned that? And she likes to point out that like I'll be out here knowing random Jeopardy facts, but when it comes to like, you know, basic math or something, I'm like, let me pull up a calculator. I don't know, I like trivia though, and it's funny because whenever we did like, you know how in class, like you'll do Jeopardy in class. It's not like I was crazy good at that. Like, I wasn't bad at it, but it wasn't like it was my strong suit or my favorite like class game to play. But something about Jeopardy on TV, you know, it is what it is. It's perfect. But yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna go back to watching it. I'm just gonna have to like watch the old episodes on Hulu or something. That's because that show's been on for ages, and I think Alex Trebek was hosting it from, I want to say 84 or something. But yeah, it's been a while. So I guess there's a lot of content to watch, but it's not the same. Like, I'm gonna miss him for real. And it's interesting how celebrity deaths hit, right? Because it's like you don't personally know them. They're just kind of like an entity that is there. But I guess it's just like the comfort, like the consistency of having like that figure be there. And I know there's people that kind of I guess not downplay, but like there's people of the mentality that like you can't really miss somebody who you don't know, like you can't feel for somebody that isn't like personally in your life. But I disagree. It's like it's the same as like when you're watching a movie or reading a book and like the death of a fictional character hits you, and like that's only like what 2 hours runtime, or like how long does it take somebody to read a book? Like a week. Like that's somebody you only knew for that long, right? But you become invested in who they are and like the idea of them and like your concept and your perception of them. So like you do genuinely feel that. And I think that's probably in part why this one is hitting so hard, is because not only has it been like every single day that I watch Jeopardy, or like that I'll like watch clips from the previous night's show or something, but it's like it's kind of routine, right? Like I don't watch a lot of like actual television like as it happens. Like I watch SNL, I watch Jeopardy, and now I'm back on Supernatural. But other than that, I don't really watch a lot. So like those are like my key people, and that's like what my attention is focused on. So I'm just sitting here like all day like sad. And it also couldn't have come at a worse time, because like I've been talking about for the past few weeks, Supernatural is ending, and I guess tune out for like the next few minutes if you don't like spoilers, and if you're actually trying to keep up with the show. But I'm just sitting here sad because Misha Collins had announced that it was his last episode, which makes sense because there's only 3 episodes left. But the way in which his character was written off was the saddest thing ever. I was literally like sitting there like low-key sobbing for maybe 5 minutes, like as the show is ending, because his character is gone, and his character was perfect. I love Castiel so much. I love Misha Collins so much. I'm gonna miss him as Castiel. And like again, like I was saying, like it's a fictional character, like it's nothing that should actually matter. And you know, I'm sure Misha Collins will go on to do other projects and stuff, but feelings. Maybe it's because I'm a Cancer sign. What's the moon doing? The moon was full on Halloween. Let's not get into astrology though, because I know half of y'all that listen to the show hate astrology, and the other half are only like casually into it, and I myself barely know what I'm talking about. But I'm gonna still blame the moon. That seems like the thing to do. But yeah, it's been a stressful weekend. If you count, I guess, Thursday as the weekend. But yeah, overall, in general, that's been what's consumed my mind, has been celebrities and our unhealthy attachment to them and fictional characters, and also, you know, the present overwhelming doom that we all have felt for like the last 4 years finally clearing away a little bit. Not to be dramatic or anything, right? But yeah, there's that. It was so funny the the morning it was announced, because I'm sure we've all at this point like seen the news and seen videos of literally the entire world celebrating. I think like the first thing I saw was on Twitter a video of NYC, and you can hear like cheers from like all the skyscrapers, and from the streets there's people just like running around like blasting music, cars honking their horns, like banging pans. And so like you picture that, right? And you're like, okay, it's New York, it makes sense. Tell me why. Whenever me and my roommates left, because we were, like I said, we were all in the living room because we'd all been keeping each other updated. So like when the news broke, we were like, oh my God, did you see? Yeah, we saw. And so we sat there, we had our little moment, and then we go outside and we're on our way to get some, like, I think it was lunch. Yeah, I was late. We were on our way to get lunch. And we hear people from like random buildings just cheering. Like, I was like, I might as well be in NYC right now. Like, everyone was just out here mad hype. It was super funny to see. But I like I said, I don't think I've ever imagined anything being like this. And I feel like I've been seeing a lot of people be like, I've never seen like, a response like this or anything. And I'm sitting here thinking, I wonder what the perception is different from like, my age group who've really only like been mostly aware of like politics for what, like 10 years. And that's only been, let's see, 2, 3, 4-ish election cycles. And how that compares to like what like even like what my parents or like what professors or people on the news say, like, oh yeah, like I've never seen this, and like it's been super consistent that like there's never been a response like this, which is crazy to think about. But anyway, I digress. We're reaching the halfway point of the show, which means I've been rambling for half an hour, which means it's time for a song break. Started off the show with American Idiot by Green Day, which I thought was fitting. And up next, we have Warmth by my absolute favorites, Bastile. So here is that. That was Warmth by Bastile from the album Wild Wild World. I love Bastile so much. I've talked about Bastile before and how they're also one of my favorites whenever I realize like not all of their songs were just necessarily like indie pop love songs. They have a few that are like a little topical about, the issues, such as this one. But I miss concerts, as always. What I did want to talk about was, since I, as I said, have been grieving for Alex Trebek. That's like, I'm so sad about that. I have no proper explanation for it. But I wanted to talk about like other shows and essentially just do a little story time about shows and like how they shape who you are. Because like I know I mentioned like I guess your identity kind of serves as a base for who you are, but I also very much think that you're influenced by like the content you consume, right? Like the people you're around, like your surroundings, of course, but also like the things that you personally seek out. And so it's like kind of a running thing that your personality is like the last movie you saw or the last book you read or the last show you watched or something like that. And I was thinking about it and I was like, you know what? True. I feel like I could point out a lot of like different phrases, especially that I say that come from like from different books and movies and stuff like that, and like ways of, I guess, handling things. I don't know if I've talked about it in recent times or if I did it over quarantine, but I do know that a lot of like the big words that I know and stuff like that definitely came from a series of unfortunate events, because Daniel Handler, better known by his pen name of Lemony Snicket, would in the books themselves like throw in like some like crazy extravagant word and then define it not in a dictionary definition but like in the context of the scene. And to be fair, because of that, I can't define the words. I know how to use them in a sentence, but like if you ask me the definition, I'm like, series of unfortunate events, read that, it'll tell you. But no, yeah, a lot of the words that I like picked up along the way definitely came from that. And it helped too, especially like when I was a kid and there were spelling bees and that was a thing that occurred. A lot of words I like learned and picked up from books, and I'm still always going to be forever mad that it made it to regionals, and the word that got me out was grotto, because there's 2 T's and I spelled it with 1 T. And at the time I was reading Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. In a later reread of the series, I noticed that there is an entire chapter about a grotto. And to make things worse, as I mentioned, I picked up a lot of words from series of unfortunate events, of which there is a location called the Grim Grotto. So somehow that word just kind of slipped through the cracks, and I will never live it down. It still traumatizes me to this day. But I will say, on the topic of spelling bees, Aquila and the Bee is one of those movies that I think was very formative. All of the characters have such a nice like development and arc. Really does teach you how to like kind of take life and strive for things that you need. And similarly to Lemony Snicket, I feel like I picked up a lot of words from there. I have a list here of TV specifically because I was thinking about like Jeopardy and game shows and like how like, you know, they're meant to be catchy and they're meant to be a thing because like anyone can compete like for the chance of whatever. And I feel like a big reason that like I even got into Jeopardy or game shows in general, not just because like, you know, it's what's on, because it could just be on in the background and I wouldn't care about it. Because like that's how I feel about what is it, Wheel of Fortune. It's not at all like my type of show, and maybe it's just because I'm not good at it, but I'm not entertained by it. Or like I mentioned, Deal or No Deal, like we used to watch it, but it's not a show that I enjoy. But I think what got me into the whole like game show type thing was definitely Fetch with Rough Ruffman from PBS Kids when I was a child, because we didn't have cable, we had PBS, and Fetch with Rough Ruffman was iconic and legendary, and I'm pretty sure that they got an Emmy for their theme song, which is very, very well deserved. That song goes so hard. But me and my sister used to be obsessed with it, and we'd always talk about like if we competed we would have done this, we would have done that. And I remember reading I think it was like a Reddit AMA by one of the girls that was on Fetch, and she said that like her time on the show was like nothing but fun. And I was like, that's good to hear, because I know you hear a lot about like child stars hating their jobs like later on once they're free from it, but it was nice to see that Fetch was a good environment for them to be in. I feel like I learned a lot from Fetch because they always had like different challenges that they'd learn about. Like there was one about history or something, like U.S. history, and I remember taking a test later, like maybe in middle school or high school, and like the answer that I put down wasn't because like I'd remembered it from class, it was because I remembered it from Fetch with Rough Ruffman, and I was always very amused by that when I was younger. I think one of the things though that like stuck with me the most, there was an episode about cooking, and like they showed how to make, I think, gnocchi, and so like if you want me to tell you how to make gnocchi, I know how to do a very simplified version that was taught to kids for a challenge. But it's cool, the type of stuff that like you pick up and that sticks with you, which I guess PBS would be happy to hear, because that's the whole point of their shows, right? They're meant to be like educational and make you a good person or something. But yeah, Fetch with Rough Ruffman was iconic, legendary, amazing. And what's the middle section or segment of, I think, Word Girl? Word Girl is more like I think that one's supposed to be Jeopardy, right? Because like they show the thing on the screen and then like they have to guess what it's about. And like the characters, me and my sister would watch this to the point like we would notice whenever they changed voice actors for the kids, and like we would sit there and like critique them as if we had any right to critique a voice actor by any means when we were children. But that one was also a good one. I think we picked up some words from Word Girl, but more than anything, we just kind of like would pick up different quotes from the kids in that middle section, and I think it was a mid and end segment with the little game show where they show us the meaning of the word. But yeah, that was entertaining. And then obviously I feel like if I'm going to talk about shows that I watched as a kid that were formative, I have to mention Arthur, because Arthur is to this day one of my favorite things ever. And I don't know, man, Arthur is just so good. And of course, like now it's like memeable, and that's part of what makes it super popular. But I went to Five Below, and they had a shirt that says like it says Arthur, but instead of being like the normal logo, it's the fist. And I've never wanted something so bad, but it wasn't in stock because they were just putting out like the posters for the shirts that they were getting in stock. And I was like, wow, I need that in my life immediately. But what was I talking about? Oh yeah, so Arthur is the only reason I know how to spell aardvark, and the only way I can spell aardvark is the stupid little song that he makes up for himself to sing for a class spelling bee, which is ridiculous. And that's also how I learned like about Jekyll and Hyde, and I think they had an episode about like Edgar Allan Poe and Mary Shelley. And oh my god, actually, so I was watching Supernatural the other week, right? I have been doing, and there was the thing of the week was I think it was a Baba Yaga, and I was like, whoa, wait, that's crazy. I learned about that in Arthur, which again is insane. PBS Kids did good. Here's me, the poster child for a kid raised on PBS Kids. But yeah, I have to mention Arthur. And a little bit of like a more interesting one is Cyber Chase had like an end segment where it was either it was Harry and Bianca, and it might have been somebody else, but it was like, so the show's a cartoon, right? And then the end segment was like a person, like it was a real life thing, and they would like, I don't know, do something that had to do somehow with math. And in one of them, Bianca's like, she's daydreaming that she's a spy or something, right? And she has to like put in codes and disable lasers and do a bunch of stuff. But in order to not get like got by, whoever it is that she's trying to be a spy against, or you just, sneak through, she has to do the thing like exactly, but in reverse. And she messes it up because like the clock, I think it was about clockwise and counterclockwise, right? And so I think she does it the opposite because she doesn't like remember which one is this. I don't know, dude. I haven't seen this in like 10 years. But there was that episode, and that one to this day haunts me because whenever I do things like, and this might just be like a like a weird little me thing, but like whenever I do things, I'll like pay attention in like the order I did it in case for some reason I have to undo it. And like, when did I notice this? I think I noticed this when I was probably when I was like making masks, when I was selling masks over the summer. Cause like there's like, you get like into a routine, right? Whenever you make anything, like your little routine, your little pattern. And so I would like fold it like a certain way, and then like have to turn it inside out to paint it, and then turn it inside out to wash it or whatever. And like I would notice like which corner I would fold first, and then like I would undo it like in the exact opposite order. Not like it's necessary, like I literally could have just like bunched it up and like, doblado y desdoblado. But because of that one episode of Cyber Chase, like here I am like paying attention like clockwise, counterclockwise. Well, thanks to Cyber Chase, I know which way is clockwise and which way is counterclockwise. So again, thank you, Cyber Chase. There's also when I think about sundials, that might not have been Cyber Chase. That might have been like Maya and Miguel or something. But that's a long tangent about PBS Kids, I think. I know like we didn't have Disney or anything, but on Saturday mornings they had like, their series of shows that they pulled in from Disney. And I think Zach and Cody had a lot to do with like me wanting to get into the industry, which I hate the phrase, but I think that's part of why I wanted to, because those two kids, like most child stars just kind of like, they make their money and then stay in the business, right? But I remember that the actors for Zach and Cody, Cole and Dylan Sprouse, they went to NYU, and I think Dylan, who played Zach, went for like game design or something, and Cole, who played Cody, went for, I think, anthropology. And I was like, that's cool that they like wrote their personalities into the show, or maybe the show shaped their personalities, who knows. But I always thought that was super cool, like that they had it all, right? But they still decided like, I want to pursue like my own personal interests, etc. But I think that's part of the reason that I kind of like lean towards the entertainment industry. I was like, wow, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Like you can still like do things. And I think currently Dylan Sprouse is like working on a comic or a game or something. I keep seeing concept art. I don't pay a lot of attention. But Cole found his way back to acting, obviously, with Riverdale, which that's not a conversation I want to even consider. They so did that dirty. But he also did like a while in photography, which again, this one's not so much I guess then about the show as it is about like the actors in the show. But I don't know, I like the concept of a well-rounded individual, if we shall. But yeah, there was that. And then I think it also definitely shaped my like sense of humor for a while, because it's like clever, like witty humor, but it's also a lot of like awful like dad jokes and puns, which if you know me or speak to me for like longer than like maybe 15 minutes, that's very much like my go-to. But it's interesting. I don't think until I was scripting the show I considered how much like actually sticks with you from that. And like I like I said, I mentioned a lot of like Lemony Snicket's writing definitely shapes the way that I write personally. Not like I don't write like creative fiction type stuff anymore. As a kid there was a while where I wanted to be an author, but like the way, like if I'm writing a paper or if I'm writing like anything that's like going out like as a communication, I feel like I kind of channel that tone because I like his style. Again, it's very like clever and like you have to think a little bit to like get what's going on. But yeah, like if you'd ask me my favorite book, like I'd usually like go towards Harry Potter or something, or usually Harry Potter. But like if you'd ask me my favorite author, it'd have to be Daniel Handler, because even the spin-off series from Series of Unfortunate Events, I feel like is still written really well, and it's one of my favorites. And even that was like significant because I read that, it came out later. I think I was already in high school or something, but there was a part, because Daniel Handler like writes in usually like obviously there's a story, but there's always like jazz references, and there's always something about what's it called, like cooking and things like that. And so there was one in which he mentioned orecchiette, and I took it upon myself to look up the ingredients, and from the recommended like serving sizes came up with a recipe to like make it, because I wanted to try it because the way he wrote it sounds so good. And like I'm not usually one to be like, oh yeah, like someone's talking about food, like, oh yeah, I want to try that, but like the way this man writes, I was like, I want to try that food immediately right now. And so I did, and I made it, and it was really good. So thank you, Daniel Handler. But Alex Rider, I think, has also been significant in who I am as a person. Again, I love the writing, I love the character. Alex Rider is currently being made into a TV show. I think it's actually airing already in the UK, maybe, ? I don't know. I saw an ad saying it was coming to IMDb TV, which I didn't even know was a thing, but I will be watching it. And Alex Rider is also one of the things that made me want to get into like kind of more so into film and stuff like that, because I hated how Harry Potter was done towards the end. It was just so much darker than the books, like unnecessarily so. And I know I've mentioned on the show that I don't like whenever a story is taken and it's made like grungier and more dramatic, just to like seem deeper and have like a better appeal, I guess, to like that sort of audience. I mean, it works because people do want to see like I guess like the darker that a story is, like the better like the resolution is whenever like all the loose ends are tied up and the happy ending is up or whatever. But I hate the process of it, right? And so reading Alex Rider, I was like, I don't want anyone to ever do this man dirty, like ever. But now it's getting made, and it's in the UK, and I'm in the States, which means I can't work on it, and also like I'm still in school, which sad, but I'm so excited to see what comes of it. Yeah, Alex Rider was one of my favorites. I think a lot about there's like a line in which the bad guy, Alex Rider is a teenage spy, by the way, right? And so like the bad guy is like outside and he's like staring at the moon or something, and Alex is like, there's a word for people who are obsessed with the moon, they're called lunatics. And I was like, boy, if you don't. But like that line stuck with me forever. Like I said, I feel like one of the things that I pick up the most from like books and movies and shows is just like random little quotes that like they're not even like relatable or like something you could put like on a t-shirt or so. Well, I guess you could, but I wouldn't wear it. That'd be kind of cringe. But like things that you like wouldn't recognize unless you knew the book. And so like my entire like dictionary of go-to phrases, just everything came from somewhere. But yeah, I think those are my top favorites. I know for a while I was into Percy Jackson, not like when I was a kid, more so kind of like in high school, because I stumbled upon one of the books at like a library book sale or something, and so I got it because the cover was pretty. And don't judge a book by its cover might be a good way to live life, but if you're talking about actual books, like some graphic designer somewhere put so much work into that, and you'll put some respect on their name, because a lot of the books I pick up are just because like the cover was pretty. But yeah, I got into Percy Jackson for a little bit. Again, I think what I picked up the most from that was just like random little quotes. Again, I like the sense of humor. It's like kind of witty, but kind of like dad jokey, which I know isn't everyone's favorite brand of humor, but that's who I am as a person. But yeah, I love kind of realizing where like things come from, and like I guess something that also drew me to Percy Jackson was like I do like mythology. But you know what? The mythology thing, I can tell you 100%. Like obviously it's interesting, so I always like thought it was kind of cool. But I can point like my continued interest in it to Pop Tropica, and Pop Tropica is the best game to ever exist known to man. And poptropica.com is still up and running. It's currently being redone because I think the games were all like written in, I want to say, because I think Java is not going to be supported anymore, so they have to like change it to like something new. And I'm just sitting here like, boy, if my old accounts don't work anymore when I try to log in, I'm gonna be so sad because I had so many islands like beat. But there was one called Mythology Island anyway, and it was really, really cool. And again, you know what? Pop Tropic is on the same wave as PBS Kids, where like it's entertaining, but you do learn, because like I did learn about mythology. And a lot of other stuff. There was also one called Time Travel Island, in which you pick up like little tiny like bits and pieces of history. But yeah, this entire podcast has just led you to this moment in which I asked Pop Tropica to please sponsor me for all of the time and hours I put into this. I think Pop Tropica came out when I was in 5th grade, 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade. I was in elementary school. And I played it I played it my entire like childhood. I played it like well into high school, and then I just like didn't have time because homework and life, etc. But played Pop Tropica for a long time, and I've been thinking about it recently because, like I said, I saw like a news little blurb that it was like getting redone, and there was like talk about the set getting shut down or something. It's like, no, they could never. They would never. And it turns out they're not, but I just want my favorite islands to still be there. Ooh, that might be a good idea, actually. That's going to be what I do over break once my, I guess, classes are over. If I'm not working. That'll be my chill time. I'm going to replay Pop Tropica. I feel like that's a nice, wholesome way to spend my time. But anyway, that's me as a person. I'm just a collection of different books and movies I've seen. But as I see that my time here is drawing to a close, we've got about 5 minutes left, so I will give y'all one last song break to wind down for the night. And this one was actually not one that I had personally heard. It was mentioned in a Twitch stream I was watching yesterday, but there's like a lo-fi edit of This Is America, which, fitting, I think goes well with the theme of tonight. But I'm not like super like big into like the lo-fi hip hop like chill beats to study to type thing, but this one like I love when people like do their own take on songs, because like obviously people do covers or like remix it. There's a YouTube channel called, I think his name is Dre Rock, and he'll every now and then do a meme song, like just something like whatever, it's like top 40 but made out of Minecraft sounds, like stuff like that, which is very like new YouTube. But then he'll like do covers of certain songs in different genres, and that's one of my favorite things, is hearing a song in a different genre. So anyway, that's why I think I like this one so much, because it's not like an edit that I was expecting to hear, and it didn't sound as I expected, because I feel like a lot of like the lo-fi stuff is just like really slowed down with just like kind of a dragging like bassy beat, but this one's not that. Like this one actually felt like creative and cool. So that was Wonderworld's take on This Is America, produced by Aries. I knew Aries was in there somewhere. But anyway, that's the show for tonight. Thank you so much for listening. This has been podKast with a K, and this is Karla with a K, signing off. You've been listening to WECS 90.1 FM. Like I said, next week will be my season finale here in the studio, and I won't be back, unfortunately, sadly, until February. I'm gonna miss having this clean, crisp sound to work with, because if I continue the show just on my own from home, it's gonna be with like my headphone mic, which is nowhere near as good as this one right here. But yeah, so we'll see what I have in store for y'all next week, and I'll keep y'all updated, I guess, on what I do with the show over break. I usually do take breaks off, but I did have fun doing this over quarantine, and it was really fun to have my friends as guests, just kind of in a more casual, informal setting. So if you want updates on that, follow the show on Twitter at twitter.com/podcastxk. That's PODKASTXK for more. And if you want to hear past episodes of the show or anything else, you can do that here at the station's website. Links are all on my show page at wecsfm.com/podcast. Again, PODKAST. So that's that. That's me. I'm going to go finish some graphic design assignments and then go to sleep. Have a fantastic week, and I'll see y'all next time.